Thank you for stumbling onto the Wheelhouse podcast. Another milestone is upon us. We're up to episode 5. We're at the point now where every week we're creating history. My name's Joel Spreadborough, and I feel like there's an apparition in front of me because Kate Bates returns to the studio. Where have you been?
I'm back. I've been at the Com Games. I've noticed that you've got a bit of a shrine here, Joel.
Yes.
And it's not creepy at all.
No. No, well, for those listening on, it's a cutout of Kate, but I want you to point out that it's strapped to a bottle of tequila.
I don't know who made that decision, but I like it. And I also felt like, based on some social media comments, Joel, that I had to return the love. And
Sure.
so I've got this beauty. It's not photoshopped at all. It's simply a nude photo of you on a statue of David.
No, that's me. I've been doing quite a bit of riding lately,
Yep.
And I wondered why they were watching me in the shower that night.
Thank
Post-ride? It is, yeah, just cooling down. But geez,
so
we do.
there you go.
The
I've
things
missed you too, Joel. It is great to be back, and I brought some excess baggage with me. Said with all due respect to you, Scott McGrory in the house.
An Olympic gold medalist.
Calling me a
joining the
handbag
fray.
there, are you?
The handbag.
If it fits. Did you bring your medal with you?
I didn't. Actually, I'm not sure where it is. I need to find out where it is. It's in storage somewhere.
You didn't use it to pay for the cab to get here, did you?
No. Oh, if I was to do that, I'd use the bronze medal because that never gets spoken or used in any way. No one cares about my Olympic bronze medal.
It's amazing to have
very
Scott
harsh.
McGrory on the panel, our first guest. And Kate, just quickly, you're definitely not an AI bot. That's
I'm
you,
not.
right?
I'm real.
Okay. I
Yes.
feel like I need to do one of those I'm not a robot tests that you have to do on how many tractors are in the picture.
No, it is very good to be back, I have to say. I'm very happily settled back into the chair and
Amazing.
yeah.
Scott McGrory, I have been Googling you, as we do at the Wheelhouse. Wikipedia is our go-to source for information. You pioneered some incredible looks in your career, alongside your extraordinary achievements, a very fashionable rider back in the day. Let's take a quick look at some retro McGrory fashion. Now, this one is outstanding. Talk us through it.
Oh, well, okay. I'm very proud of that one because that's for the Mapei team, which was the Jumbo-Visma of the day, the biggest team in the world. Double the budget of any other team. But, yeah, their kit is quite iconic. And at the time, it was obviously very colourful, but it's become a real cool retro kit to have these days. If anyone wants to pull out a team from back in the day and go for a retro ride, it's the Mapei stuff.
A lot of the teams, like you hear Mapei, and we know it from cycling, but you have to Google them to figure out what kind of company they are. They're not, it's not like Mapei Automotives where you're like, oh, it's an automotive company.
It's just glue.
It's
Tiling glue.
It's tiling glue. And
Yeah.
so the fact that one of those photos is like superimposed over a bucket of tiling glue,
Yeah.
I think that's
I had
quite
a slogan
glorious.
at Mapei, we stick together.
Oh,
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
that's why they
exactly.
pay you the big bucks.
What they did
Just a
with
thought.
you saw that postcard there, right? So each rider was superimposed over a historic or significant venue where Mapei products were used.
Oh.
So Adriano Baffi, the Italian track specialist who won stage at the Tour de France as well, he had the Olympic velodrome in the background because they used Mapei products there. I think one of the other guys had a swimming pool, some significant swimming pool. So whatever crazy, awesome, significant building that used their products, the riders were superimposed over.
The Opera House for you, Scott?
Well, they didn't do that. I'm not sure. They may not have used Mapei
No,
products.
probably not.
Well, the costume, the outfits were great. They're kind of like a mixed lolly kind of look. I liked it a lot. As you know, I went for a 90K on the weekend, just sliding that in there. I wore my Broncos jersey, so I was also quite colourful. Got a lot of weird looks. Like, what are you doing in a Broncos jersey?
Oh, look, we can get you a Mapei jersey, but
that's
good
what
on
I'm
you
hinting at.
For the Broncos jersey. I like that. 90K, that's
90K.
solid.
It's like, well, I had to be carried in here today, but that's okay. I'm working hard on it. But let's get into it, guys, because it's so good to have a third wheel, I guess, the third wheelhouse this week, episode 5. We're going to start with a very serious business and some hard-hitting news and current affairs. Kate Bates, transfer season is in full swing.
It is. I love transfer season. I mean, I actually love pre-transfer season where all the gossip starts coming out and people start, guessing where people might go. And there's still a bit of that going on. Mark Cavendish, is he coming to the Wheelhouse, Joel? I don't know. Nobody knows where he's coming. But I think the biggest kind of point of contention around any of it is the fact that Jumbo-Visma is essentially turning into what Ineos Grenadiers used to be. as you put it, Joel, almost like the the Jumbo Grenadiers.
Well, look, they were always
Yes.
moulded in that shape, but now it's come to the point where they're actually luring riders away. So that's quite a significant step in that,
Indeed.
I guess, blueprint.
Well, and Dylan Van Baarle is the biggest name for me. He was the winner of Paris-Roubaix, and he's going across. I mean, that gives them like an epic classics team. Scott, we suffered through so many years of what people kind of called a boring era of the Tour de France where Ineos just dominated everything. This year it was so exciting with Jumbo, but are we now just getting like a precursor to another kind of boring? Let's not use it. No, let's use the word boring.
You
Boring.
you use whatever word you want on your podcast.
Yes, it's my damn podcast.
Yeah.
No, a boring era where Jumbo are just going to dominate and you'll be now then rooting for one of the other teams to usurp them.
Well, and it's exactly what they want because they have the money to buy the riders, as did Ineos previously, to turn the odds in their favour. So from their perspective, there's no salary cap. They can do whatever they want, and they are doing exactly what they feel as a business will get the job done for them. Now, they're not thinking about the fans. They're not thinking about how the race is going to come out. They don't want it to be random. And we saw Dave Brailsford say this from Ineos a couple of years ago, that they wanted to get back to just general racing. Now, that worked for a couple of races until they realised it's better strategically to dominate the race and have the best riders. So we can't blame Jumbo. We can talk to the UCI perhaps about salary caps. That comes up every time these sorts of discussions happen. And what can they do? How can they change this? And Rowan Dennis is perhaps the first to make that jump when he did that before the start of last season where he went across from Ineos and then bagged out Ineos on his departure as well. Let's just put it there, which was poor form from our Aussie. But yeah, look, they've got the money. They've got the money and they want to dominate, and that's what they're going to try and do. And yes, you're probably completely right that it might sanitise the race.
Sanitise.
Yeah.
See, now there's probably a
It's
better word
the
for me to
Mercedes
use.
Formula One. It's the team that just has limitless resources. But I just want to say a quick shout out at adios from Richie Carapaz after 3 years,
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
Yeah.
That's
But when he moved over from Movistar after winning the Giro, and Scott, I understand he was on minimum wage at Movistar.
Close to minimum.
So we can't really blame him after that big victory for wanting a new opportunity. But it didn't go that well, the transfer. He didn't let everybody know in the best of ways. And so transfer season can also be a bit of a grab your popcorn and watch how it unfolds kind of
it's
scenario in that. But the other one that's really stuck out to me is Bike Exchange, because Caden Groves is heading over to Alpecin and he'll join Jensen Plowright over there, Scott. But I don't know, is Bike Exchange, where are all the Aussies going? Away, it seems.
Yeah, unfortunately, this has been a pattern for quite a while now. So it did start as a proper Aussie team full of Australian riders with just a couple of foreigners. But over the years, they've realised they had to bring in foreigners to go for the big race results that they wanted. And they've lost their identity as an Aussie team. There still is somewhat of a culture, an Aussie kind of feel to it, but not all your staff are Aussies. It still is registered as an Australian team. And, of course, the founder and the benefactor, Jerry Ryan, has done an incredible job funding that team and Australian cycling for so long. But it's just not seen as the Aussie team that it used to be. It's simply registered in Australia, but it's the internationals that are doing the big wins. And some of the best Australian riders have left. And if you look at the Vuelta coming up, we'll talk about that soon, but with the Vuelta coming up, we have the 3 Australian contenders for that race don't ride for Bike Exchange.
Are you saying, controversial, that the Australian team is un-Australian?
There was I noticed Scott and I kind of paused there, like, no.
Well, we don't want to be negative. And we don't, and as I say, look, particularly Jerry Ryan, he's a friend of mine, and he's been amazing for Australian cycling. But the original concept is not what the team is now.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it's not as Australian as it used to be, and there are Australians there, but it's not an Aussie team like it was.
No, I think that's fair to say. So maybe not un-Australian, but also maybe
It's
not
a big-
really
it's a big
Australian
term,
either.
isn't it? Yeah.
It is a big term.
Also,
throwing down the smackdowns.
You mentioned him earlier. I want to just circle back quickly to the Cav. So many links in that chain. Coming to the Wheelhouse. That's his number one priority. But where's
early
he going to end up?
discussions. Well, rumour has it that he's linked to EF Education first, also to B&B Hotels, which I find really interesting because it's fair to say I don't know, can we say he's past his best? I think so.
Oh, he has to be.
He has to be.
You're saying he's un-Australian.
He's at the definitely. The Manxman is definitely un-Australian.
His best was the best ever.
Yes.
Put it out there, the
well
best
said.
sprinter of all
But
time.
he's at the back end, the twilight of his career.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a trend where these big money riders, and I'm looking straight at Peter Sagan here, go to these smaller teams, much smaller teams, for their last years, like their last contracts. But it usually doesn't come with results. So Peter Sagan, I think he's won one race since he's been at Total Energy. I mean, it does amazing things for their PR, though, and their brand. So is that what we're thinking with Cavendish, Scott?
I think with Cav, he has a young family. He's coming to the end of his career, and he's thinking of the future, meaning cheap accommodation. So go to a sponsor like B&B Hotels, and he can get cheap holidays all through France for the next 10, 15 years. So I think it's just a family package. that he's thinking about.
Strategic.
Yeah, smart.
On the track, though, as you say, but that whole past his best thing, how much is he going to miss that train?
I think a lead-out train is pretty important. I mean, but we've seen it massively dysfunctional this year where it really hasn't worked for him.
Yeah.
So I don't think that will ultimately be what holds him back. I think it's probably more his age and whether he's got the determination or not. But speaking of lead-out trains, really exciting on the women's side, guys, because Maeve Plouffe, we've just heard, has signed for DSM.
Another friend of the Wheelhouse.
Another friend,
Maeve,
Maevie. Oh, we love Plouffe. Maevie, Plouffe, so many nicknames. Lorena Vibes, who of course won the first stage of Tour de France Femme.
Yep.
She has left DSM for Jumbo-Visma, so another big addition to the Jumbo-Visma family in now the women's team. But Plouffe will go there to join that sprint train. Now, Charlotte Kool, who was Vibes' lead-out girl and considered the best in field at doing so, she and Maeve will now partner up. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Much excitement, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Scott, Brodie Chapman is leaving FDJ. Where could she be going?
That's no one can find out. You've been trying to find that out as well. Maybe she's going to go to DSM as well to join the Ploufmeister.
Well, I could see her fitting in beautifully at Jumbo-Visma, but again, that would be like men's and women's just amassing the masses.
Yep. Sport for riches.
So, hey, with DSM, we saw so many good riders leave the men's team. Okay, now we've got Vibas leaving as well. I imagine that's just purely money that the Jumbo-Visma has got so much to throw at her to get her. But is the women's team, does it have the same turmoil that the men's team seems to have had the last couple of seasons?
No, the women's team, they are joined, but there's a bit of, I suppose, enough of a new program and a new culture on the women's side that it is considered to be a pretty strong team to join.
DSM management for the men seems to be super strict, and so many riders just don't want to be there anymore.
No, and it works for some, but it very clearly doesn't work for others.
Yeah. Well, Aussie Chris Hamilton, he just extended his contract with them. He loves them, thinks it's fantastic. And then you guys like Jai Hindley, and they couldn't get out of there quick enough.
Yes. But, I mean, imagining Brodie Chapman going to Jumbo-Visma, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
A succession plan for Mariana Vos, also having Vibes there.
What a handy segue that is. This is the Wheelhouse podcast, easily digestible, mostly factual, current affairs edition. Let's continue with the hard hitting. There's a controversy. I know you think it's a cliche nickname, but I just want it to be known as Puppy Paw Gate, involving Mariana Vos and a very controversial disqualification after the fact. Now, I'm going to have a go at Post-Nord Vargata West Sweden road race. How did I go?
You did well.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm not sure if our Swedish friends would agree with either of us.
All three of them that are listening, yeah.
It does need to be shortened, though.
Yes.
That's a name too long that it needs to be.
It is. But think of the commentators.
Now, look, the commentators made a very late decision. We have some pictures of this, a few seconds of puppy pawing from Mariana Vos. Now, Kate, you can explain the go of what's the go with puppy pawing?
Yeah, so puppy paws is essentially where you take your hands off the traditional placement on the bars and you then put your forearms resting on the handlebars, and that's what you can see in vision, and you can check that out on our social media if you're listening along. And now that is not allowed. So the rule says that you can only have 3 points of contact on your bike. your hands have to be somewhere on the handlebars, your feet have to be on the pedals, and your bottom has to be on the seat. If it's off the seat, it can't be anywhere else. And the relevance of that is the Superman tuck position and such, where people were sitting on their top tubes.
Okay.
The reason people get in this puppy paw position is for aerodynamics, pretty simply, and comfort. Like, Scott, I'm definitely guilty of cruising around and ducking down onto my forearms because it actually gives your back a bit of a rest and your shoulders and your core. It isn't allowed. I think this was a crap decision, though. She didn't find out until afterwards, which was 13 kilometres later, after she'd won the race and changed the outcome of the race because she dragged them essentially to the finish line. We don't always agree on commissaires' decisions.
Well,
what do you think about this one?
And yeah, look, it's unfortunate. She's such a good rider. She's incredibly skillful as well, which is one of the issues that the UCI have with this. The professionals doing it, that's one thing, but the kids then see it and they want to do it. Now, I have personal experience in this. So I was in a training bunch, a very good experienced group of riders in Bendigo, and one of the guys rolled across in front of us. We were doing 60 k's an hour or so, swapping off. And as soon as he went across to the front to come back down the train, he then put his hands in the puppy paws, which I'm learning this term now because I didn't understand it was puppy paws. But anyway, he went into puppy paws, hit a bump, hands went off the bars and fell into the rest of us. And fortunately, my instinct, I grabbed him under the armpit and put him back on his bike.
Oh,
so he was able
wow.
to gain control and not crash. But that was only because he did exactly what she did for only a couple of seconds, hit a bump, and it was going to cause 8-10 riders to go down heavily.
That's a bit of a
that's why.
superhero moment.
Heroism
It was a bit.
/ self-preservation. But
was,
I think
yeah.
it's a brilliant moment.
Everyone behind thought, wow, you just saved us all. I'm like, I was just trying to save myself. I didn't care about you lot. I didn't want to crash.
Look, in her defence, she remonstrated with officials later. She said after the race, I feel bad about it because I didn't benefit from it, but rules are rules, as Scott has pointed out. But I just want to say, having ridden for 89 of my 90 Ks on the weekend in the puppy paws position, she had just finished the decisive attack in the race. She was pulling away from the pedal. Didn't she deserve a little breather, Kate Bates?
I think it was a bit of a brain fart on her part. As soon as she went down, she realised it was wrong and she jumped straight back up. You know, it was honestly a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
I think
Maybe a warning.
And I suppose the
Like a
rules
yellow
don't
card.
allow for that. Yeah, that would be
So if you
more
do it
fair.
again at another race, bam, then you're gone.
Exactly, disqualified.
Okay,
But
so like a
immediate
strike
disqualification
system.
is
Yeah.
harsh. But I think what all the noise comes from is people can accept rules are rules. Even if you don't like the rule, we can understand to a degree that a rule is a rule.
Yeah.
But the UCI is so inconsistent in its own application of rules that's where people start seeing this massive hypocrisy. And the biggest example lately, Scott, was the speed hump coming into the finish in Burgos. 300 metres before the finish, downhill, travelling 70 kilometres an hour, there's a speed hump, which is completely against what I might say is UCI regulation
Got some
on
pictures of
course
it.
design.
Yeah.
So again, jump over to our Insta to check this out because it's insane.
Oof.
It essentially knocked out or at least hindered 95% of the bunch coming into the finish. So Jumbo-Visma ended up going 1, 2, 3 simply because the fall happened with one of their riders at fourth wheel. So dangerous. So the UCI allows this to happen and they don't even make a comment about it.
Yeah.
Nothing with the organisers. It's just silence. The only noise is people complaining, fans saying this is ridiculous. And so when you look at something like this and then you compare it to puppy paws being disqualified because that's a safety issue, it is just insane. And 70k now going down a hill, Scott, they hit that speed hump.
Oof.
They have no chance flying into the barriers.
Yeah.
So I reckon that's the biggest
We'll chat a
issue.
bit more about course design in general a little bit later, but this one is the extraordinary pictures. We're looking at some aerial pictures, speed bump, massive speed wobbles. One goes down, the rest follow. Absolute carnage on the track there, Kate. It's makes you. Whew.
Well, when you do get to look at that footage, just check out the fourth rider from Jumbo-Visma because he still finished third on the stage and should not have been able to continue. He was so fortunate that he didn't go down because it was third wheel that crashed. Fourth wheel somehow fended it off and kept going. And that is horrific. And I've been involved with course design for Herald Sun Tour, for Road National Championships, etc. And you're right, Kate. The inconsistencies. Now, I can kind of see where we blame the UCI, but I imagine the UCI themselves would not have seen that finish until the footage itself, because they don't have someone that's going around on behalf of the UCI inspecting every single international bike race finish. You expect the race organisation to take the right of safety into account. And I know that that's something we really do delve deeply into when we're doing our course designs in Australia, and we would not allow that speed bump. You know, we would come in another road, finish at the top of the hill, just to avoid that situation.
And crashing through the barriers like they were made of matchsticks as well. It's very, very hard for. Let's stay with the Flying Dutchwoman if we can, because Scandinavia. She put the drama of Puppy Paw Gate behind her pretty quickly with back-to-back stage wins to kick off the Tour of Scandinavia. Kate, what did you make of that sprint finish, stage one?
Well, she's clearly on form, and I think that this is vintage Voss. She is just so comfortably winning these bunch sprints. And I think historically, whenever Voss has been at her best, it doesn't really matter what conditions the sprint finishes under, she will find a way to win. And that's what we're seeing again, which is pretty exciting. We did have Amelia Farland finish second behind her on one of the stages, and she's a local Swedish girl, huge crowd for her. And she celebrated as though she actually won. Which I thought was really cool. I think that you can talk about the domination of Voss all day long, but you also have to look at what's going on behind it, because there's always some fantastic stories.
Throngs of supporters along the Swedish west coast there in stage two, but very importantly for Voss, I just want to point out that she learned her lesson from Puppy Paw Gate, because she applied some tape to her handlebars. We've got some pictures here of the message that Marianne Voss applied to handlebars. Now, it says, you're going to tear me apart here, neat ligen? Is that okay?
Close enough,
okay.
Yeah. And it's Dutch, and it means, don't lie here, essentially.
Yeah, when I first saw her, I was like, never lie. I was like, is she telling herself, be honest, stop lying in my interviews? Like, oh, no, she means don't lie down on the handlebars.
Yes.
Honesty's the best policy.
Yeah, right?
I don't think she put that there herself. I reckon that's somebody in the team being a little bit cheeky.
Scott, were you prone to messages on the handlebars in your days?
No, never.
No? Okay.
Really?
No.
I not on the bars, but on my stem, I would very often write things, whether it be where the feed zone is, where the climbs are, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe not things like that. That's funny though, in good humour, right?
I think so. I think so. And look,
humour.
she was quite refreshing about it, quite candid, and quite like, you know what, I did it. It's rules are rules. I made a mistake. She's not going to do I was about to say do a cav and have a bit of a tanty, but she's not going to go, I'm not writing today. Who did that? I quit. It's not that. It's just
we love
just get on with
Cav,
it.
but he is known for, being a bit of a volatile manxman.
I wonder if he has a limit, like a tanty limit in his new contract. Anyway, well, look, moving on, the Wheelhouse
I've got a
podcast.
cab story. I've got a quick cab story for you. We're talking about transfers and things like that. Now, the London 6 Day a couple of years ago, I went over to commentate that, and a couple of my colleagues were talking about Cav's watch, and they were just talking up this watch that he keeps racing with and wearing, and it's I'll remember the brand in a moment. It's a Formula One sponsored brand, and they said it's worth $500,000, and he's racing with it. So seriously?
Wow.
So, and knowing Mark, I went over and said g'day and said, tell me about this watch. Everyone's talking about this watch, and he just took it off and handed it to me. So I put it on, and I had this $500,000 watch. Oh, well, yeah.
And then you ran as fast
Yeah,
as you
should
could.
have, yeah. And look at that. Pretty cool. Awesome, amazing watch. Gave it back to him. He then raced the rest of that week. And then the following week, he went to the Ghent 6 Day and had a really nasty crash on the left-hand side, which is where he wears his watch. And the first thing I thought of was while he was spinning down the track was that watch he's probably sliding on now is worth $500,000.
Was it okay?
It was okay. Yeah.
I
think he when he crashes now, he lifts his hand up to
Yeah.
kick off the track.
He has a stack and everyone's like running to help him going, quick, is the watch okay? Oh, sorry, Cav, you all right too? But the watch! Moving on, so let's get a bit closer to home on the Wheelhouse podcast. A gigantic controversy a Gigante controversy? Does
I
that
love the
okay?
puns. Yeah. We are talking about Sarah Gigante,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because
Well, I had
otherwise,
to-
I don't know what you're talking
A
about.
Gigante controversy
Yes.
for Sarah Gigante. 10 seconds, costly 10 seconds, Kate.
Yes. Now, she is not necessarily known for her bunch skills. She likes to hang out toward the back. That's something she needs to work on. It's a dangerous place to be in the bunch, not just for falls, but also to lose time and miss breaks. But alas, a flat day, she was hanging out at the back. And when they allocated time across the finish line and bunch time, they deemed that she was not connected to the bunch anymore. And as a result, in the results, it said she was 10 seconds adrift of the bunch. So not a time penalty at all, just that she was 10 seconds back. But actually, she crossed the line with a whole swathe of riders that were given bunch time. And nobody's really sure how they came to that very arbitrary decision of deciding that the bunch ended with the rider next to her, not in front of her. But they can do that, and it can look on pictures sometimes like the bunch is connected, but they say, no, that is the end. And then they take the time actually from the first rider to cross the line. But they haven't done that with Gigante. So I remain no idea how that happened. No
What do you reckon,
idea.
Scott?
Yeah, really strange situation. And they have increased the distance because these things happen. You've got a bunch that's strung right out. And for the riders that are up on, especially on the final stage, this does happen. I've had teammates that have lost overall classification results because they were too far back in the peloton. When you get into the middle of the field, there are riders that aren't as desperate to make sure they are on time because they know they're sprinters or they're going to lose time in the mountains, whatever it may be. So they'll just ease up. And if you're behind them and there's a gap, too bad. Then you lose time to the first rider across the line, which is, well, the sounds of it, that's what's happened. But it's how do they determine that? Which sounds quite interesting and intriguing. And for Sarah, maybe this is a good lesson for her to make sure she fights on. And this is why you do see so many of the big contenders for overall classification still in the top 10 or in the top 20 on some of these intermediate or type of sprint stages to make sure they're not going to be caught behind a split in the bunch. That's the only reason they keep pushing.
Okay.
Yeah, hard
Gigante
lesson.
effort for her to put this one behind her.
Yes. Well,
and
look,
move
it's
on.
a sprinters tour, so I think it's okay. But it is a Gigante lesson.
Thank you. Gigante lesson learned. This is the Wheelhouse podcast. Olympic bronze and gold medalist Scott McGrory is here. More medals and hot dinners. Kate Bates and weekend cyclist in a Broncos jersey. My name's Joel Spreadborough. Let's stay with women's cycling. Let's jump on the plane and come onto home shores right now because there's some exciting community use, a bit of a fundraising effort. What I love about it, the idea was inspired over a couple of bottles of vino. We'll get into it, but what's Pat Shaw up to, Kate?
Pat Shaw is crowdfunding for an Australian women's national racing team that also travels to Europe for a bit of development. So it's not the first time this has been thought of, but it is a different time and we've got a lot more fan engagement. So let's see how it goes. But the premise, Scott, is that they're going to get all these people to chuck in some money and from that, use that to fund the team without any name sponsors per se.
Yeah, and if you go back into the 90s, iTeam Nova was a team that Dave McKenzie and his wife put together. And it worked for a very short period of time. No one was really getting paid much, but they were trying to do this crowdfunding thing. And I remember this one, it was my generation, but the promotional photo that was in the Herald Sun was Dave McKenzie with the iTeam Nova jersey and Nick's painted on. So it was body art. So he was just wearing budgies on a bike doing the victory salute.
There's no need for you to find that image, Merck.
Just quietly, we know that he would have loved every second of that. Just
so
quietly.
Yeah, body paint. And look, they just didn't get enough funding. And the challenge that Pat has, it's admirable, and we all want. And this is with the Inform TMX Make team folding. You know, there is some rumours that one of the other NRS men's teams is about to fold as well. So it's capitulating. The National Road Series, it's not good at all. Specialised team, women's team finished last year as well. So it's admirable to try and keep something going. But unless you've got a big star that people support already, I just don't see this format working. I just don't. And I'm hopeful it does, but I just can't see how it'll work.
Well, they've raised a bit of money so far. We'll put the link in the show notes for anybody who wants to jump in and go fund. And I reckon I've just had a brilliant idea, Joel.
Go on.
I'm thinking you in Wheelhouse body paint.
Yes. Easy.
I've
got it on under this. So.
I don't even know what we're raising money for. I just feel as though
Broncos jersey painted on.
Broncos jersey painted on.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. Maybe we could auction off this. This is the statue of David. Sorry, the statue of me, not David.
Hold on, are we auctioning the picture of it or the actual statue?
Oh, okay. We need to discuss that off air.
We'll
You know what would really help? Just quickly.
Meeting.
It could be a 30th birthday.
Cavs watch.
Send you to a 30th birthday dressed like
that. Yeah.
Good.
Cavs watch would get them right over the line.
Well, Luke Plapp has donated. Grace Brown has donated. We've got some of the Aussie pros pitching in, but if we could get Cavs watch.
Grace donated $500. Cavs watch is worth $500,000.
Yeah.
So, it's like for like.
That'd help.
Yeah.
That's a big push along.
I don't think Grace's contract is worth that. So, it's not really, I think, generous from her. I'm pleased to see that support. Yeah.
Well, look, all power to them and good luck to them. As you say, a tough road, but it's
you
in
never
the
know
interest.
until you try. That's Pat's come up with an idea.
Yeah.
He's hopeful that it'll work. We all are. Nobody doesn't want it to work. That's for sure.
Is that your mantra for life? You never know until you try.
And what I love about it's one of the rare exceptions to that rule of not sticking with ideas that you come up with when you're 2 bottles of wine deep. He's had the idea, a couple of vinos, and I'm going to start a team, and he's gone on with it, and I think that's fantastic. But let's move on. Let's stay at home. There's 2 big events coming back in 2023: the Tour Down Under and Cadel Evans' Great Ocean Road Race. But I believe there's still some gaps to be filled for the Great Ocean Road Race, Scott?
There is. So the TDU, of course, that had continued through the pandemic as the Santos Festival of Cycling. So they still had their infrastructure and everything was rolling forward. Now they step it right back up to what the race was always beforehand as a World Tour event. So that'll be amazing. Everybody's desperate to get back there. So pretty much all of the big-named Australians are coming back for that one. So it'll be great to see. But the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race, my understanding is they still don't have an events company to actually put it together. Now, the funding's there. The government has definitely want it to happen. It will happen, but it's going to be tough. Whoever does eventually take it on as an events company, they will be scrambling to make this thing happen. It will happen, but it's going to be really hard for them. And it might, they may need a multi-year deal just to make sure that this one gets going again, because I can't imagine they're going to make much money out of this first edition back, because they'll just have to spend so much more money than they would normally, because it's all going to be done in such a short amount of time.
Well, that would be comforting if they brought it back for a few years. I
just had an idea. I just had a great idea. The Wheelhouse Corporation has an events wing, an events division.
We do?
Why don't we
do now?
We do now.
As of right now. You know what just happened? Because you were talking about it. So it's a bit stressful. Your cardboard cutout fell off the bottle of tequila during that spiel. So we're all feeling the heat.
I'm trying to quite daintily reapply my head to said bottle of tequila. There you go.
Let's discuss it.
As long as that cardboard cutout stays here, Joel. It would really freak me out and creep Kate out even more if that went home to your place every day.
Travel.
It's the elf on a shelf. It seems to pop up in different places every week. So
it's the good thing about both Cadell's and Tour Down Under is that it's stepped up to Women's World Tour. So that means that we will get the best of the best coming out from the women's side, and with Wheelhouse on board as the event partner.
Possibilities are limitless. Honestly, how lucky they would be.
Indeed, but it's great to see them back. I think a lot of Aussie fans have been kind of hanging out to get our fill back once the seasons are back underway.
The other race that I am the race director, or have been the race director for, the Jayco Herald Sun Tour, there are initial talks about trying to bring that back for next year as well.
Wow. High caliber events left, right and centre. Let's move on to the big one that's just around the corner. I refer, of course, to Wollongong. Wollongong Worlds on the Wheelhouse. I keep hitting my microphone. I'm that excited that I'm just like Wollongong. It's on Australian shores, of course. We love the gong. I want to talk a little bit about courses, if you guys don't mind. So, Kate, let's go to you first. What do you make of the ride around Wollongong as it's shaping up?
Well, firstly, I think it will be beautifully scenic, and I think the imagery that we will get will be just beautiful. It starts at Helensburgh and very quickly drops down over what's called the Sea Bridge.
Yeah.
So it's over along the coast of southern Sydney, and it is just beautiful. And then it heads out to Mount Kira, which is a decent climb. And I
climbed it.
Yeah, and you can look at it and say it only climbs 400 vertical metres and think it's not too bad.
It's bad.
It will certainly sort some people out. And if you don't manage to find that part of the course difficult, there's a huge running back into a city course which has, honestly, super sharp incline on that lap as well. So there's quite a lot of challenges. And I think, we talk about goats a lot and squirrels and beavers. We're quite an animal-focused podcast here with
Mountain
cycling.
goats, yeah.
Mountain goats. I want to say horses for courses. This
Oh!
will not... There you go. Threw that one in.
Yeah.
This will not suit everyone. Mount Pleasant is the really tough pinch on there. Scott, I reckon from an Aussie perspective, we've got a couple of riders who this will suit beautifully. I'm looking squarely at Grace Brown and Michael Matthews. But I'm really curious about the course design process in itself, Joel, because, Scott, you know a lot about this. I was involved in the course design process insofar as we literally, they should have made a reality show out of this. I jumped in a minivan with Mark Renshaw, Gracie Elvin, Anoni Wood, like some of Australia's best road cyclists of, the modern past. And we drove around the course kind of oohing and ahhing at all the hot spots. We all agreed none of us would like to ride it, that we thought it would be too tough for our legs. But, Scott, it's so much more than just saying great climb, bad climb, whatever, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And look, we've just come off the Birmingham Commonwealth Games, which was dead flat, pancake course. The time trial course was harder than the actual road circuit that they had. And we can discuss whether it was worthy or not. And, I think the racing was fantastic, regardless of the course. So the riders made that race rather than the course making it for them. But there are lots of things to consider. Now, even just using the bridge, which is a spectacular section of road, that was always going to be in it, regardless of what they were going to do for a course. They wanted to have that bridge, didn't they, in the course itself. And every single Australian or every single car company in Australia has filmed a TV commercial with their cars on that bridge at some stage. That's the fact. But they're not looking at, there's safety element, there's the infrastructure, simple things about where's the start and finish, where are we going to have the finish line. Now, you might have a beautiful stretch of road down along the beach, but there might not be enough space for infrastructure. And that was a challenge and a consideration around the Geelong World Championships in 2010. The Cadell Evans Great Ocean Road Race finishes along the beachfront, but for a World Championships, there wasn't enough space there for the infrastructure they need. So they turned it up another street and took it up into town. It actually finished straight out the front of a sex shop.
Oh.
Right?
Optics.
Yeah,
it's all about
optics, right? We're going to Geelong.
I didn't know that, and I wasn't prepared for that.
There you go. You can head to our social media to have a look. There's Merxie's been up all night making some wonderful graphics of the Wollongong Course. And that Mount Kira, you speak of 8.7 kilometres, an average 5%, I think maximum 15%. Not a terrible day climbing, to be fair.
I'm a flatlander.
Yeah.
By nature. I like the run into the beach.
Yeah.
I like to climb hills for the view.
Yeah.
But that'll be tough. For a lot of the peloton, that'll be tough.
Yeah, and from the Australian men's perspective, you mentioned Michael Matthews, absolutely good chance for it. There was a lot of talk about Caleb Ewan as well, and there's a story written recently about how Caleb and Michael could work together to give Australia its best chance. Caleb won't be there. Caleb won't get around that course. It's just going to be far too difficult for him. So it is going to be a tough course, and Michael, from the men's perspective, will be our best chance for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were talking a lot about Caleb Geary, using the tour as a prep for Wollongong.
Well,
but anyway,
I don't know that the tour... Yeah. Well, I don't know that it's his season. It'll be a tough challenge.
Quickly, to finish off, if you don't mind, let's go to Spain on the Wheelhouse podcast. Kate Bates, Scott McGrory, my name's Joel Spreadborough. A quick trip to Spain. The Vuelta's just over a week away at time of recording. It's exciting.
It is. It's exciting, and it's also exhausting because the watch hours of these Grand Tours for Australians is quite offensive hours. Between that and Commonwealth Games, I feel as though the Aussie cycling fans are going to need a big old sleep. They'll be pretty pumped for Wollongong.
Southern Hemisphere discrimination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got a really good chance, I think, with Joe Hindley, winner of the Giro. Great Aussie chance. But Remco Evenepoel is the big name that everybody's talking about. I tend to think, maybe a bit controversial, but Scott, I don't know. I don't think he's everything that he's hyped up to be, and I don't think he can handle the pressure of 3 weeks. And I don't mean the physical pressure, I mean the mental and emotional pressure.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
Yeah.
He did have, by his form or by his perhaps expectations, a poor Tour of Italy, but that was his first big race back from breaking his leg the previous year, 18 months ago, prior to that. So now that he has that in his legs, clearly at San Sebastian, this is the footage that we're seeing at the moment is from San Sebastian, which he went solo and won that. He's amazing in these events. In these one-day races and time trials, he's seriously incredible. He's now to be tested over 3 weeks, and this will be the first time that he's in really good form and slightly more mature age than he was when he first burst onto the scene. So this is a big test. This is a really big test.
Mature age. I love the way we describe athletes. I think we would definitely be described, this cohort, as mature age. If we were to
veteran age.
Veteran age.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling me an athlete, by the way. I've been working
It's
hard
no
for
problem. But I think the big disappointment, Joel, is that Primoz,
that. Yeah.
Broggy.
They haven't finished
I love our
sticky taping
nicknames.
him back
No.
together just yet.
Well, he won 3 on the trot, and now
Yeah.
he looks like he won't be there.
He's the
so-
Humpty Dumpty of
He
world
is.
cycling.
He-
It's a shame that he's not there. We were talking before about the Australian team Bike Exchange looking to build on some form from the Tour as well. Any optimism there, or is sentiment getting in the way of facts for me, thinking that they might do something in Spain, or what do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think that they might have some stage opportunities, and you know, if their history proves anything, it's that they're pretty tenacious and pull some big results out. But I'm not sure I'd have too many more hopes than that.
I don't disagree with you. Just on Roglic, it's like his previous ski jumping career. It's just ups and downs, full of ups and downs. But
I love that you waited to get that gag in, but anyway.
Since yesterday. Been
But,
waiting
you
to
know,
get
the
that
great irony is that he left ski jumping because he was injured too often.
in. Yeah. Came to cycling.
Welcome
gets
to
injured
cycling.
all the time.
Yeah.
And road rash, I think, is a bit harder than snow rash. But if you look at Bike Exchange, Jayco, for that race, Yates maybe going for an overall classification, more than likely. However, if you had Yates, a Brit racing for Bike Exchange, racing for a podium place versus Hindley, Ben O'Connor or Jack Haig, I know which ones that the Australians will support.
Yeah.
And it'll be the Aussies that are riding for a non-Australian
that's
registered
right.
team.
Of
So,
course.
Yeah.
and that's the challenge with cycling. It goes back to that team in particular, Bike Exchange, and it's losing its Australian identity. You just need an Australian that's going to be winning, and there's 3 that are potential podiums at the Vuelta that don't ride for that team. One of them did ride for the team and then left, which also says a lot.
Go
let's
Joe,
hope-
Jack and Ben.
Well, let's hope none of them hit the speed bump that they're going to put in 300 metres. from the
Roglic
finish.
will hit that
And
anyway.
also
Yeah.
Wollongong speed bump, of course, yeah.
Roglic will hit it even if he's not there. He'll find a way.
This is the Wheelhouse podcast. It's been a lot of fun. We'll get into it a little bit more next week, but Scott McGrory, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you, guys. Pleasure.
Kate Bates, I'm still not 100% convinced you're not an AI bot, but
I'm actually here. If I spill my coffee, will that convince you?
yeah. Well,
Sorry,
but
Merxie, I promise I won't spill
Don't
the coffee.
dare. That'll end everything. This is the Wheelhouse podcast, easily digestible, mostly factual. You can have a look on our socials for everything we've spoken about today, and lots of fun posting during the week as well. We'll be back to do it all again next week. Thank you for coming along for the ride.
Adios.